Okay. So we're recording again, and then let's see. Mary asks, should every DOI work with the HTTP in front of it? I'm worried it might not work for some references. Well, you can always test it. And then if we go back to Crossref again, because sometimes I think the HTTP will be followed by an S. We're going to do. I can't spell tonight. But I mean, I would just always test it, or look it up in here, because if the article has a DOI printed on it, but it's not the URL type DOI, if you look it up in here, you'll see what it is. Yeah, see these have an HTTPS, and then some of the DOIs used to have like a DX period prior to the DOI, like right here. So kind of interesting. Let's see. Yeah, here's mine again. And it's, yeah, https://doi.org. Yes, some of the older ones, or I don't know, maybe they're newer, have a DX period DOI, but you can be sure that if you look it up on crossref.org, that it's going to be the accurate DOI. Okay, so, and then Amber says, how do you get primary information from the information on a fact sheet? Well, I'll tell you, fact sheets anymore are considered primary sources. For example, I'm going to look up the AACN fact sheet on the nursing shortage. Oops, I wrote shortage, but here it is, AACN fact sheet, nursing shortage. Okay. We can download the PDF version. Okay. So, yeah, see here, they're citing the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But to some extent, I mean, what you could do to play it safe is you could just follow this link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics information and get this information directly from it. But anymore, these fact sheets are kind of like a systematic review, in that the people who create them compile all the most current recent evidence into this one source. And I know many nursing journals will accept a fact sheet like this as being a primary source of evidence that you might extract from it. Okay. So you just want to make sure that you made it clear in your writing that you were citing a fact sheet. And I mean, you could even mention, like if you were going to cite this statistic, you could say something like, according to the American Association of Colleges of Nursing shortage fact sheet, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has reported that the RN workforce is expected to grow from 2.9 million. Only, you'd paraphrase or quote that information. Okay. So, I mean, but in this case, if you wanted to follow the primary sources, like we could click on this link, or we could go to this source here. In July 2017, Journal of Nursing Regulation, Dr. Peter Burhouse and colleagues examined the 4 challenges facing the nursing workforce in the United States. So in this case, they're citing a journal article. I think I would go get the journal article. So I click on the link, and it may or may not take it. So it is taking us to this. Okay, so there's information in here that would be considered primary source information. I don't know if they did a study or they looked at data or what they did, but so hopefully, did that answer your question? Okay, great. All right, let's go back and see where we are in our agenda. So I got through that. I think, do you want to take another break, or do you want to just keep going? The next thing I would probably do is go to the module 3 and just kind of go through the assignment that, or the module that we're in the middle of. Keep going, keep going. Okay, so we got Carolyn and we got Mary saying keep going. And Amber says keep going. All right, so we're going to keep forging through here. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to go to the web course website. Okay. All right, so learning modules. Okay, so basically module 3 has a couple weeks worth of module. I think it's like 4 weeks worth. And right now we're in the middle of module 3.1. Okay, so there's quite a bit of reading there. And then we're doing the presentation tonight. But meanwhile, you had to post your initial response to discussion 3.1 in the module 3.1 discussion forum. And then your reply will be due this Sunday, the 15th. And oh, you also submitted your literature search assignment, which I will be grading during spring break, which is next week, if I don't get started before then. Oh, in this, before I scroll on down to the discussion instructions, here's the folder that has the critical appraisal tools and resources. And something I added last night was the annotated general appraisal overview form that you saw pieces of in that first presentation that I did. Also in here is the evidence hierarchies according to PICO questions that was in that presentation. So here you have the blank general appraisal overview form. I think it's going to come up. Whoops. Okay. And I'll point out to you that, okay, so this is basically, oh, it looks like I forgot to check the correct box here. So should have taken that out, but, well, not necessarily. I guess it's not a bad instruction. And then you can see, and I should have pointed out, as you fill out this form, as you add information to it, it'll stretch. So it'll spill over into another page. But I have a page break inserted here. So then when you go to insert your evidence determination worksheet, it'll be inserted on a new page. So you would insert that here. And then you're going to fill out the correct rapid critical appraisal form for the source that you've been abstracting data from to put on the general appraisal overview form. Okay, so that is the blank one for you to fill out. And then I'm just going to close that because we're done with that basically. And then I go back. Okay, so here's the one that's annotated like you saw in the presentation. And while that's opening up, I will open up the evidence hierarchies document. Oh, did I lose it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so just kind of, you could kind of replace, if you wanted to type directly on this one, you could, you just have to replace the red information with the information that you want to add to the form. And you can say, because I've added information to it, it's caused it to spill over onto page 2. And then, of course, then we have the placeholder for the evidence determination worksheet and the placeholder for the rapid critical appraisal form here. And I'm not going to make any changes, so I'm going to close those. And let's see. And then I thought I was, oh, here's just the tool. I don't even know this. It's not mandatory that you use this. I probably created it more for myself so I could get my head wrapped around the alignment of the evidence hierarchies according to each PICO question type, and then the type of rapid critical appraisal form you would use to fill out for that particular type of source. And you're going to find the rapid critical appraisal forms in this file, whereas there's going to be 3 different evidence determination worksheets in this file. We've got one for either your intervention or diagnostic PICO question, one for the prognostic prediction etiology PICO questions, and one for the meaning PICO questions. This is like the 2nd or 3rd semester we've used these forms. I'm not even sure if students find them helpful at all, but what we try to do is put in here some of the criteria that would define the different types of sources of evidence that you could use to answer the intervention or diagnostic PICO question. So here's some examples of criteria or characteristics of a systematic review of randomized controlled trials. And then the next section, you've got characteristics of randomized controlled trials. And then the next one, you have characteristics of well-designed clinical trial without randomization. And these forms are not perfect, but they're intended to kind of help you process the information that you're reading in a source so that you can determine, you can help classify it as a particular type of source. So you're going to only check yes for one of these major sections here. So a source is not going to be both a systematic review and a randomized controlled trial. It won't be both a randomized controlled trial and a well-designed clinical trial. Now, there may be exceptions, but I think for the most part, it's not going to be that way. And down here, we put other evidence. We kind of lumped all the non-research evidence into this section. Opinions of authorities, which is just expert opinion. Report of an expert committee or professional organization. A literature review that's not systematic. Those sorts of things. And then, whoops, oh, this should not be here. You don't have to. Oh, yeah, you would, because you could copy and paste this out. This will be, this form will follow your general appraisal overview form, and then your rapid critical appraisal form would follow that. But I'd insert a page break so that it starts on a new page. Okay, so that's just one of the 3 evidence determination worksheets. And as you're like filling out an evidence determination worksheet, if you're just finding that you can't find the criteria that matches the source that you're trying to make the determination on, then it might be a clue that it's not the type of evidence that you would find on this form. Okay, so it might be that you need to find another evidence determination worksheet, although there is some overlap between the 2. So basically start with you first need to determine what type of PICO question you're working with. Okay, and once you do that, then you can select the appropriate evidence determination form. Oops, I want to go back. And then from there, you should be able to find the source should be represented on that form. So if you've got the right type of PICO question, or if you determine your PICO question type correctly, then it should be easy to pick the right form here. And then the type of evidence that you're working with should be represented on that form. All right, the next thing I'll do is I'll go into the Rapid Critical Appraisal Forms folder, and there's going to be a lot of them in here. So you kind of have to, and this is where things can go wrong. If you don't accurately classify the form or classify the article or the source, then you're going to end up choosing the wrong Rapid Critical Appraisal form. So this is where I encourage, just to look at the characteristics. How was the study done? How was the work done? What type of work is it? And try to find the, try to classify it as accurately as you possibly can. When in doubt, post questions in the questions discussion forum. And then I can usually, at least I won't necessarily tell you what the answer is, but I would ask you questions to kind of lead you to the answer. So that, oh wait, I was going to go back here. Mary had another question. One more question on discussion posts. Is it okay to attach a graphic form from a textbook if properly cited. I would not. I do that somewhat in my presentations, but I have that permission as an instructor to do that. So I don't think I would attach the figures from the textbook in the form, even if you I'm not sure what benefit that would be. Oh, I was thinking of attaching the hierarchy triangle to my post, but was not sure. I don't think you need to do that. I would just refer students to it. Say, you know, look at this figure such and such on page such and such of the textbook. Okay, then Amber asks, is there a rubric for this project, or do we just strictly fill out the forms? No, there are instructions, and I'm going to bring those up pretty soon here. Okay, so there's all our rapid critical appraisal forms. And like, if most of you have intervention PICO questions, then I'm thinking you're probably going to be in the controlled trial, not randomized, or the randomized controlled trial vicinity with some of your sources of evidence that you're going to have, or you might have a systematic review of randomized controlled trials. Actually, this is systematic review. Oh, rapid critical. All right. Okay, so let me go back to the module. All right. So then for this week, it looked to me like everybody got their initial message posted. And again, like if you were, if your last name began with A through J, you responded to discussion item 1. So you answered this question: differentiate practice-based evidence from research evidence. And if your last name began with K, oh, that should say K through Z, I think. I will fix that right now. Now you're getting to see what the instructor side of this looks like. Z. Okay. Whoops, now I gotta get back down here. Okay, so then you would post your initial response to discussion item 2, explain the relationship of levels of evidence to quality, quantity, and consistency of evidence. So that would be your discussion response. And then your reply is gonna be to someone who had the response to the opposite discussion item as you did. And then everyone had to make up a PICO question for an assigned PICO question type. So some people were assigned to make up an intervention diagnostic diagnosis question, and some were assigned to make a prognostic prediction meaning question. Okay, and then for your replies, you're supposed to give feedback that demonstrates evidence or information from the textbook. Oh, there's another typo. I've got an OICO question instead of a PICO question, but I will correct that later. Let's see. Oh, and down at the bottom here, I gave you some examples of evidence appraisal assignments that were done by students last semester. And I will caution you that the instructions have changed somewhat this semester, and the forms have changed somewhat. So just use these as a general guideline for what the assignment's going to look like, but always follow the assignment instructions and use the forms that I've provided in this module to do the assignment. Don't try to make the student examples be your template, because things could go wrong that way. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Let's see. Let's go look. Oh, by the way, in the discussion board, I assign myself to be a student, and so rather than posting a really explicit discussion wrap-up this time, I would encourage you to look at my Broderson student responses. So I posted a response, and then I replied to one student. Okay, so here's my response. Previewer just means that's if I go into preview mode, I can pretend to be a student and see what the course looks like from the student side. So I posted this discussion response that way. And so someone could actually choose me if your name, last name begins with K through Z, then you could choose me to reply to. I think that I replied to Samantha Zubek. Yeah. Okay, so there was my reply to her. All right. So you can kind of get an idea of what if you were a student with a last name starting with K or going through Z, this would have the general ideas of what I would be expecting in your response. Whereas my response would have the general expectations of students who replied to that first discussion prompt if your last name began with A through J, I believe. Okay, so that was that. Let me just make sure we don't have any more questions. Okay, and then getting to Amber's question, I'll go to the assignment drop box. And we want evidence appraisal assignment instructions and student examples. And I'm still kind of, you don't see, right now what you see is the instructions kind of ghosted out, but because it's hidden from students because I'm working on them. So I'm just reviewing them and making some changes. I will open up, actually maybe I have them open. No, I don't. Okay. I'm gonna find those assignment instructions and bring them up and we'll kind of run through them so you can see that you'll be able to see that there is a rubric for them. They're coming. Okay. All right, so the instructions are relatively short because they basically specify that you fill out the 3 forms for 2 different sources. Okay, so I think probably this information is pretty stable and accurate. The length of it is going to depend on how much information you put on the general appraisal overview and how much extra information you add in the open-ended questions on the rapid critical appraisal form. But that the evidence determination worksheets are probably just going to take up 1 page. I don't think they will be more than 1 page. And then the rubric looks something like this. And right now I'm going through each of these items to make sure they reflect the information that's on that general appraisal overview form because I've made some changes to it since last semester. And so I'm just trying to get that matched up. And then you can see I've got a column for each of the 2 sources that you're going to do this assignment for. And then this is the total column. And it'll end up being 20 points when I get done. There's just a little bit of few points for the evidence determination worksheet and a few points for the rapid critical appraisal form that you're going to fill out. And then when we do the final assignment, actually, I don't think you fill out the rapid critical appraisal form for that assignment. I actually can't remember. I think this is the only assignment that you do the RCA for. And those RCAs are appended to the textbook. They're directly from the textbook, so they're not things that I have modified or created. Get back to the questions. Okay, Mary asks, were we supposed to post 2 different PICO questions? Do you mean for module 3.1? I don't think so. Because at this point you should just be working with 1 PICO question. So like do you mean for discussion 3.1? Oh, yes. You were supposed to, wait a minute. Yeah, you were supposed to have, let's see. Okay, make up a PICO question for your assigned PICO question types. Yeah, if there's 2, so you'd have to make up an intervention and a diagnostic one, and you'd have to make up a prognostic and a meaning one. if you were assigned to A, see your last name's C, right? It starts with a C. So you would be, let's see, yeah, so you wouldn't have needed to have posted an intervention PICO question and a diagnostic PICO question. So thought we were supposed to post a prognostic. Okay, what's your last name? Is it Clapp, your last name? I think we got two Marys in the class. Oh, McCarthy. Oh, so if you would be in the second group. So yeah, you would have been supposed to post a prognostic prediction. They're kind of the same. So, and a meaning question. So if you didn't post the meaning question, I would go in and add a reply to your original response and add that meaning PICO question there and the types of evidence that would be appropriate to answer it. Okay. Well, I think I pretty much covered everything that was on my agenda. Is there anything else you guys want me to go over or address? Otherwise, we can. Well, hearing says I'm okay. Mary says I'm good. Thanks for answering our questions. Amber says no, this is good information. So Carolyn, earlier when going through the critical appraisal form, is the citation for the form needed? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Go ahead and if you want.
You had that in an example when we were going through it earlier about, I don't know, it was in the bottom of the example, the citation for the chart thing.
Okay. Was it in the course?
I don't remember. It was just at the beginning of this presentation, I guess, when we were going through that.
I'll go. When I was in the rapid critical appraisal.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to open up the one for randomized control trial. Okay. You do not have to put it in there. You would just. Well, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. There. You would, although, if you're filling this out and you don't want to get it mixed up with other rapid critical appraisal forms you might fill out for different sources, you might type up here, but you don't have to cite it in any way. You would fill this out and then you would copy it and paste it into that form, the third page or the fourth page, whatever it ends up being, of your general appraisal overview form. But you do not have to put the citation on the form. I'll open up one of those student examples and then we can see maybe better what it looks like. Okay. All right, now keep in mind this is 6th edition APA style. So this is the old version of the general appraisal overview. And here's the evidence determination worksheet, and it looks like it did spill a little bit into the next page. And then here's the rapid critical appraisal form. This one, the particular source the student was working with was a systematic review of clinical intervention studies. So, and you can see she just, rather than like I said, I did not design these forms, and there's a lot I would change about them, but to denote that she was answering yes, she just highlighted. I mean, there's various things you could do. I think you could, well, that would be fine. You could try to draw a box around each of the yeses, but highlighting them is probably the best way to go. And then, so she just pasted it in there. You can see it gets pretty long if it's double spaced, and things don't have to be double spaced. This at the end is just adapted appraisal overview. Huh. Oh, this is just her second one, her second GAO. Okay, so she starts out, the first couple pages are her first source. And then we get to her second source. And hers ended up being like 14 pages long. Okay. Does that answer your question, do you think, or am I still missing the point?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, are there any other questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Mary, if you're okay, we'll go ahead and I'll end the recording and end the meeting. Thanks for coming. It's always easier when I have people to talk to. You guys have a good week.